Okay, let's be real. You spend months, maybe even years in the gym building quality muscle. You eat right, you train like a beast, and you earn every single ounce of it. Then it's time to cut. You start dieting down to reveal all that hard work, only to watch your strength and size just melt away with the fat. It is one of the most frustrating things ever. But what if there was a way to burn the fat and keep the muscle? A science-backed blueprint to get absolutely shredded without sacrificing your gains. Well, there is, and we're about to break it down.
All right, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the classic lifter's dilemma. Then we'll uncover the secret power of fasting and a wild concept called the muscle-full effect. From there, we'll build out the perfect protein plan, and finally, pull it all together into your ultimate anabolic blueprint.
So let's kick things off with a problem we all know way too well. You're in a calorie deficit to lose fat, right? But here's the thing. Your body doesn't just burn fat for energy. When calories get low, it starts looking around for other sources, and it often starts eyeing your hard-earned muscle. It's a battle on two fronts, and way too often our muscle is the first casualty.
This is it. This is the million-dollar question. It's pretty much the holy grail of changing your body composition. And today, we're not going to answer it with bro science or something we heard from a guy at the gym. Nope, we're going to answer it with actual peer-reviewed research.
Here's the most crucial point to get. Typical dieting, where you just kind of slash calories across the board, is like using a sledgehammer to do surgery. Sure, it gets the job done, but there's a ton of collateral damage. Smart dieting, on the other hand, is like a scalpel. It's precise. It surgically targets fat for removal while putting up a defensive wall around your muscle.
So how do we get that surgical precision? Well, our first tool is one you've probably heard of, but we're going to look at it in a whole new light. Let's talk about intermittent fasting. You know, most people think fasting is just a trick to eat fewer calories and lose weight. And yeah, it works for that. But for us, for people who lift, its real magic isn't just in what you lose, but in what you get to keep. The research is showing it's an incredibly powerful tool for protecting muscle when you're in a deficit.
So, check this out. A 2013 study by Verratti and her team had people do an alternate day fasting protocol. Over 12 weeks, they lost an average of 5.2 kilograms, which is about 11.5 pounds. Pretty impressive, right? But here's the real question. What kind of weight was it? Was it fat or was it muscle?
And here is the beautiful answer. Look at this breakdown. The vast majority of that weight, 3.6 kilos, was pure body fat. And the fat-free mass, you know, your precious muscle, it remained completely unchanged. They lost a ton of fat and zero muscle. That is a game changer.
And just so you know, this wasn't some fluke. A 2016 study looked specifically at guys who already lift, putting them on the super popular 16-8 fasting protocol. You know, you fast for 16 hours and eat in an 8-hour window. The conclusion? Exactly the same. They dropped body fat while holding on to all of their muscle.
Now, when you put them head-to-head, it's not even a contest. A huge review back in 2011 compared traditional dieting with intermittent fasting. The fasting groups were way better at holding on to their muscle. We're talking 90% of their lean mass was retained versus only 75% with a standard diet. That is a massive difference when you're fighting for every single ounce of muscle you've built.
Okay, so we know that fasting works to protect muscle. That's clear. But if you really want to master this, you have to understand why it works. What is actually going on under the hood that makes it so effective?
The answer isn't just about calories or hormones. It's about a fundamental biological principle that, I promise you, will completely change how you think about feeding your muscles.
It all boils down to this idea called muscle protein synthesis sensitivity. Now think about it like a doorbell. You ring the doorbell, someone comes to the door. Simple, right? That's your muscle responding to protein and starting the growth process. But what if you just lean on the doorbell all day long? Eventually, the people inside are going to get annoyed and just start ignoring it. They become desensitized.
Well, that's exactly what's happening inside your body. That old school advice to eat 6 or 7 small meals a day, constantly sipping on protein shakes, you're basically leaning on the doorbell. You're making your muscles deaf to the growth signal. The receptors get saturated, they become desensitized, and that muscle-building process just grinds to a halt. You're ringing the bell, but nobody's coming to the door anymore. Fasting gives the person inside a break, so when you ring that bell again, they're ready and waiting to answer.
So, this brings us to the most critical piece of the whole puzzle. We get it. We need to give our muscles a break by fasting. But when it's time to eat, how do we ring that doorbell perfectly? Not too often, not too little. How do we get the absolute strongest growth signal every single time?
Well, a groundbreaking study in 2013 set out to find the answer. They took a group of guys, had them work out, and then gave them all 80 grams of whey protein over the next 12 hours. But here's the catch. They split them into 3 groups. One group pulsed small 10-gram doses every hour and a half. Another group did an intermediate approach with 20 grams every 3 hours. And the last group did 2 big bolus feedings of 40 grams every 6 hours.
And the results were crystal clear. The intermediate group, the guys taking 20 grams every 3 hours, stimulated way more muscle growth than the others. The pulse group was like just lightly tapping the doorbell over and over, not really enough to get a strong response. The bolus group was like leaning on the bell once, then walking away for 6 hours. The intermediate approach was that perfect rhythm. That 20-gram dose every 3 hours was the absolute Goldilocks zone. It wasn't too little, it wasn't too much, it was just right. It gave a powerful enough signal to crank up muscle protein synthesis, and that 3-hour gap was just long enough to let the muscle cells reset and get sensitive again for the next signal. All right, we've covered the science. We know fasting keeps our muscle and makes it more sensitive to protein, and we know the absolute best way to stimulate that muscle. Now let's put it all together into a simple, incredibly powerful plan you can literally start using today.
Here it is, your blueprint. Step 1. You set up a 16-8 fasting protocol. A super easy way to do this is just skip breakfast. Have your first meal at noon and your last meal before 8 p.m. Step 2. Within that 8-hour window, you're going to schedule 4 protein feedings. So you might eat at 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 6 p.m., and then have a shake right before 8. Each of those should have about 20 to 25 grams of high-quality protein. This combo creates the perfect anabolic storm, a long fasting period to maximize muscle sensitivity, followed by perfectly timed protein pulses to maximize growth.
So, let's just recap the whole thing. Standard dieting can be a muscle killer. Intermittent fasting is like your personal bodyguard, protecting that muscle by preventing the muscle full effect. And once your muscles are ready to listen, you hit them with that optimal stimulus, about 20 grams of protein every 3 hours inside your eating window. That, my friends, is the blueprint.
So I'll leave you with this question. After all the blood, sweat, and tears you put in at the gym, are your eating habits actually helping you grow? Or are you just making your muscles tune you out? It might be time to stop shouting at your body and start having a more intelligent conversation with it.
And that's a wrap on the blueprint. Hey, if this explainer helped clear things up for you, do us a huge favor and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We are all about cutting through the noise and bringing you actionable, science-backed strategies to help you crush your goals. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.